Ways and Means Committee getting together last night for a retreat on the issue of taxes. Well, how Congressman Jim Renacci was there and with me now in studio, and good morning to you. What did you talk about? What does it look like?
Well, we talked about the structure of the plan, and again, a lot of this has already been talked about for the last 6 months to a year. We're talking about lowering rates, we're talking about lowering corporate rates, we're talking about making sure that individual rates are lower so take-home pay is greater. Again, all these things have been discussed. The good thing is, last night wasn't the first time we've discussed it. The Ways and Means Committee has met over the last year to talk about some of these issues.
Okay, I'm looking top rate 39 to 35%. That's a reduction of 4 points. Does that sound about right?
I think in the end there's going to be a reduction in rates for everyone, which is the key for all taxpayers. That has to be the goal.
Okay, corporate rate 20%, small business rate 25%. Is that where you'll settle, or is that where they are now?
I think that's in generalities. These are some of the rates we've been talking about. Remember, the president wanted a 15% corporate tax rate. We're trying to get it as low as possible.
But usually they talk about, they said that initially, but now it's more like 20% or even 25%. Is 15% a lot to ask for?
Well, 15% look, the lower the tax rate, the more competitive we're going to be in this country.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying what's realistic in terms of what you can pass.
The question is going to be what we can do to make sure the deficit doesn't explode. So you could drop the rates to 15 and have a tremendous deficit, or you to 20, 18, 17, whatever you drop it to, you still have to be able to come up with ways so that the deficit doesn't explode. That's another big issue.
And you got to get the votes.
And you got to get the votes.
Okay, the president tweeted this last night. The White House never looked more beautiful than it did returning last night. Important meetings taking place today, big tax cuts and reform. Mark Short, Legislative Affairs Director of the White House, said this to Chris Wallace on taxes.
What the president is doing, Chris, is he's eliminating all those deductions that most often the wealthy take advantage of. Many others do not get that chance. Our tax code picks winners and losers. By getting rid of those deductions, then people with the higher income will have to pay more taxes. Therefore, we're nominally lowering the rate to offset the deductions we're getting rid of.
What are the deductions that are going to go out?
Well, keep in mind that the blueprint already had a lot of deductions being eliminated on the individual side. That was the Ways and Means in the Republican blueprint. It eliminated everything at the time except for interest on home mortgage and charitable deductions. So those are still kind of the parameters that we continue to look at. But again, raising the standard deduction, the current standard deduction, and when people file tax returns, a lot of people don't realize 72% of Americans do not itemize. So the higher you raise the standard deduction, the less amount people will itemize, but you still get that tax break.
Okay, now there's a meeting this week. I know you're going to be talking about all that. The president goes to Indiana on Wednesday. Why Indiana?
Well, I think it's the center of the country, and I think what he's trying to do is get a message out to talk about what he wants to get done with tax reform and move the country forward. So that's going to be continuing to get his message out to America.
You're going to dare Democrats, 10 senators up for re-election on the Senate side. Will you get moderate Democrats to support your plan ultimately?
Well, I hope so. Look, this is a plan for the American people. It's a plan that puts more money back into the American people's hands so that they can drive the economy, which is necessary. Again, we can't have, the one thing that frustrates me about Washington is Democrats want to take their side and not help. Whoever's in a minority does that, by the way. I'm not just blaming them. When the Republicans in a minority, they did the same thing. But today we got to look about how to come together and work together to get this done.
When does it get done?
Well, it's got to get done here in the next 30 to 60 days. And look, we've been working on it. We've been talking about it. So this is the time. It's the time to bring these things together. I wish we had more open hearings. I was a big believer in that. But at this point in time, we're going to have more open discussions and get this moving forward.
That continues. Jim Renacci, thank you, sir. The congressman from Ohio. Thanks for being here. You bet. Shannon, what is next?